G'day viewers, how are you? Welcome to a weekend edition of TFU, celebrating the end of another week while recognising the world is full of totally fucked up things. And yeah, as per usual, I need to winnow down the dozen or so things I could be talking about and try and focus in on a few things. I did mainly want to talk about Australian politics this week because there is a few really weird things happening here, and people are often asking me, hey, can you talk more about Australian politics? Because international media rarely pays attention to Australia for the obvious reasons that we're small and insignificant. People say, why are you talking about American politics? Because America influences the whole world, whereas Australia, not so much. But anyway, the one thing I wanted to say about American politics is the Trump banning vape things. Just because, to me, that's absolutely surreal. The idea that because there's been half a dozen poorly understood deaths that people are attributing to vaping, Trump's suddenly going to go banning vapes. It's like, okay, so literally thousands of people can die unnecessarily because of the ridiculous amount of guns running around the US, and you won't do a single goddamn thing to address that. In fact, you will release what few restrictions there are and make guns even easier to get, but 6 deaths that you think might be caused by vaping, and you ban vaping. Here's the thing, to me, hypocrisy and inconsistency I find more difficult to deal with than just people I disagree with. Like, my politics are not a secret, and I make it clear who I disagree with. But at least if someone can stand behind, like, if the various white supremacists and neo-Nazis will actually stand behind their horseshit, I'll go, well, at least they're being consistent. It's the ones who deny the obvious truth of what they are that really, really shit me, because on top of being racist, misogynistic, homophobic, neo-Nazi scumfucks, they're lying, snivelling, hypocritical cowards as well, which is even worse. And this thing's like, you can't ban guns, or you can't even put common sense restrictions on access to extremely dangerous firearms, but you can ban vapes. Or you can ban Kinder eggs, which, as far as I know, are still illegal in the US. Ban abortion. You can ban everything except guns. It's just fucked up. And the rest of the world is looking on with complete incomprehension. And I know, particularly the pro-gun lobby has zero interest in acknowledging that the rest of the world thinks you're fucking mutants. But that is what the world fucking thinks, quite honestly. So cheers to that. I thought if I had a pink drink, that would really inflame the particular weirdos out there who obsess about what I drink. Why don't you drink beer? It's a man's drink. You and your cocktails. It's a threat against masculinity. Fuck yeah, you weak, insecure little piss baby. The pink is actually Aperol. A bitter Italian aperitivo. There's also Bundaberg rum and limoncello in there. So it's a bitter Italian in Queensland type of thing. I based it off a cocktail I found called a Brazuca. So this is a Brisbane bazooka as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, back to Australia. Talking about Australian politics. See, I'm going to link this again to Trump, because Trump every now and then talks about how much he loves the Australian government's approach to asylum seekers, which is to lock them up in concentration camps and torture them. As he rightly points out, some of the stuff Australia does actually seems worse than some of the stuff Trump advocates. But for a change, I've seen something coming back the other way. Peter Dutton, the disgusting, vile, less than human, racist potato who's a strong voice in Australian politics, he's actually started using the racist American term anchor baby. Because under the US Constitution, if you're born in the US, you're a US citizen, even if your parents aren't. And so you get a bunch of racists who don't like a bunch of people who've come to America without the appropriate documents, who then have a baby there, say, well, they're going to stay there because their baby's an American. And you go, oh, it's an anchor baby. And Dutton, in his absolutely shameless, vile, disgusting racism, has adopted that this week. There's a particular case with a Tamil family. They're fleeing persecution, and these two people met while in Australia in a fucking concentration camp, and they had kids. So their kids were born in Australia, and people are saying, come on, dude, fucking show the barest fucking sliver of humanity. He's going, not, they don't even care about it. They just had those 3 kids for anchor babies. Dutton, like, people often ask me, who's the worst politician in Australia? It's clearly Dutton. Dutton is the worst, the most vile, the most racist, the most self-serving, the most hypocritical scumfuck in Australian politics. That's not easy to get that title, but he's a clear winner. The second place is a bit harder to pick. Dutton's definitely first. I mean, second place, I could pick on a few. One who springs to mind is absolute piece of shit from Queensland called George Christensen. Normally his bullshit is some weird racist shit. This week he's done this weird thing where he's proposed the government have an oversight committee into science to make sure science isn't saying things we don't like. Yeah, let's ignore the fact that scientists tend to follow internationally established patterns of peer reviewing their work. And the idea of politicians, completely unqualified politicians and or public servants overseeing the work of scientists. That's like Soviet era bullshit. This is what does my head in. Trump is doing this all the time. It's happening with the so-called conservatives in Australia, doing this all the time, invoking policies and ideas that are almost impossible to discern from Soviet-era policies of collective groupthink. It's like, no, scientists can't be trusted. We have to have a political oversight committee to make sure scientists are being what we consider to be objective. And as we've seen consistently, and the biggest glaring one is climate change, conservatives think objective is agreeing with them. When science disagrees with them, they get super, super, super upset. So seeing someone who supposedly represents the conservative side of politics, supposedly represents the idea of small government, pushing to have a Politburo style oversight of politics, to have the government decide what science can and can't say, is truly fucking surreal, quite honestly. And along those lines, another spectacularly surreal thing that's been happening in Australian politics since the last federal election. There's a woman, Gladys Liu. She's a Chinese Australian. She stood and won a seat for the Liberal Party, the Conservatives in Australia, in the last election. Her campaign was really fucked. Like, she was sending enormous amounts of homophobic lies to the Chinese community in her electorate. Got her elected. She had these signs of what we call core flutes, which is weird. If you're not a real sort of political tragic, when you start saying someone, oh, what happened to the core flutes? Normal people look at you and go, the fuck is a core? You're bringing an orchestra in? What's a core flute? Is that a flute made? No, it's these posters that say vote 1. They're called core flutes. I'm maybe even pronouncing it wrong. I don't know, because I'm not a political... Maybe it's core flutes. I don't know. It's not important. But she had these really deceptive posters up. A lot of people said her election should have been invalidated because of shifty shit. But she got elected. But here's the really funny thing. Not the homophobia, not the shifty shit. It now turns out that she has been actively involved in propaganda groups working on behalf of the Communist Party of China, which is hilarious because the majority of people of Chinese heritage who've moved to Australia in the last, couple generations are very anti-communist. They've fled communism. We actually have people of Chinese extraction who moved to Australia in the 1800s in the gold rush. You have many Chinese Australians who are 5th and 6th generation Australian. But you also have some who are 1st and 2nd generation, 3rd generation Australians. The people who are 1st and 2nd generation tend to be super anti-communist. A lot of them come from Hong Kong, some from mainland China, but basically they've fled the communist regime. They tend to be anti-communist. And so theoretically the Conservative Party in Australia, anti-communist. So you would think someone of Chinese extraction running for the Conservative Party would be very anti-communist, but it appears not so much with Gladys Liu, because she has been a member of multiple propaganda groups who proselytise on behalf of the Communist Party of China. And, of course, you are meant to declare your associations with it, even really innocent community groups. You're meant to declare when you run for Australia. And Gladys Liu did not declare that she was involved in propaganda for the Communist Party of China. Now, you would think that would be a big thing. And it should be, because it's illegal to not declare that type of thing. But the Conservatives defending the fact that, she's their member and she's in Parliament, they go, she forgot. It's just an innocent mistake. She forgot. Why are you trying to make a big thing of it? Look, someone could be in multiple groups whose sole purpose is to spread communist propaganda and forget. I mean, just imagine it was the other way, that the ALP had someone who was actively involved in spreading propaganda for communists and failed to declare it. How the Conservatives would react. This is absolutely surreal. We had an example of a guy called Sam Dastyari, and it wasn't communism. He was taking money from Chinese business people. I almost said bribes. That might have been actionable if I'd said bribes. But he took donations from Chinese business figures, and he ended up having to quit Parliament because he looked too dodgy. There's a thing in New South Wales Labor. The person who heads New South Wales Labor, not politician, who heads the actual party room, she had to resign because she apparently took literal bags full of money from a Chinese businessman. Apparently there's like $100,000 in cash in a bag. Like, just do what you want with that. And that's frowned upon. But Gladys Liu was involved in propaganda for the Communist Party, and the Conservatives are defending her. It's hilarious. And Scott Morrison tried to pull the finger. You're just being racist. You're being racist against all Chinese people. You go, dude, most Chinese people in Australia who are resident are pretty aggressively anti-communist. So to say, hey, someone probably shouldn't be in Parliament when they neglected to declare they were involved in propaganda for the Communist Party, that's not a slam on Chinese Australians generally. That's her specifically. And the funny thing, when I mentioned this guy, Sam Dastyari, because he was a political football for a while before he quit, and Morrison had called him, in a catchy phrase, Shanghai Sam! And a journalist said to him, like, dude, you're saying Gladys Liu's done some dodgy shit. You're saying that's racist. How is pointing out her associations with the Communist Party racist, and you calling Sam Dastyari Shanghai Sam's not racist? And he's going, I never said that. I never said. And of course he said it! And it was recorded on video. And it was on his own Twitter stream. So when people said, dude, you're a fucking idiot. You just said you didn't say it. And we've got the evidence of you saying it. He goes, oh, that's not what I meant. When I said I didn't say that, I meant I didn't say racist. But they're just slamming all Chinese people. And the journalist's going, dude, how is pointing out what one of your MPs has done, how is that racist? He's going, well, you know what? It's just a thing. So they're tying themselves in knots defending someone who's worked propaganda for the Communist Party. Which is just fucking fantastic. This country is just fucking cooked. I don't know what's going on. And I really want to start off with saying, like, someone who's not in the government anymore. Tony Abbott. Someone who's a whipping horse of mine for a while, because I really fucking hated the guy. And he was, I think, the only government MP to lose his seat at the last election, which was truly hilarious, because he's a piece of shit and people are sick of him. So I was like, what's he doing now? What's he doing now? Is he taking it well? Is he taking being slammed by the Australian public? Well, no. He's hanging out with fascists and promoting fascist talking points. He's off in fucking Eastern Europe, and it's just he's with the far right leader of Hungary, and he's saying things like, yeah, Westerners, i.e. white people, have to have more babies to avoid extermination. Like the single main talking point of neo-Nazis and white supremacists. The Great Replacement. So Abbott, after the Australian electorate going, you are pretty much a piece of shit and we're fucking done with you, he is now palling around with fascists and openly using fascist, neo-Nazi, racist, white supremacist talking points. So that's how well he's coping.
Good Lord, good Lord.